Okay, give me a thumbs up if you've ever felt like your to-do list as a teacher is never ending. Take a drink if you've ever felt like there's not enough time in the day to complete your tasks. Keep watching if you want to stop taking work home from a full day of teaching. My name is Yale Bass, and I'm a former teacher of 5 years, and I can tell you here proudly that my last year of teaching, which was my 5th year, I finally was able to not take my work computer home, and it was amazing. I truly believe that if you hear me out, that you implement these tips, that you will be able to do the same. Okay, there's just 2 tips that I have, and I'm gonna show you, contextualize how to do the first one. So number 1 is to prioritize your time. The greatest lie in teacher time management is that you can do everything on your to-do list. And I can tell you 110% that that's ideal thinking. You cannot, because what will happen is that you feel pressured that you have to do all these to-do lists by Monday. And so in order for you to mentally feel accomplished, you're gonna do all of those tasks in the workday. If you don't finish them, you're gonna do it in your personal time. And at the end of the day, instead of feeling accomplished, you actually feel burned out. And you're actually submitting yourself to the abuse of the education system. So give yourself a break and only focus on a couple things that are urgent, that are important to your school, that are important to your students. Number 2 is get rid of perfectionism. This was my biggest mistake my first year, and I spent way too much time trying to make it all perfect. I would stay up until midnight and waking up at 5 a.m. So do yourself a favor and don't obsess over all the details, because the teacher work day will constantly change. So you just have to be flexible and improvise and all these great things. Let me show you I'm gonna show you how to prioritize your time through 5 categories. Before I show you those categories on how to prioritize your time, let me show you how much time I actually had my 5th year. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, I had 1 hour in the workday to plan. So that was a total 4 hours. One and a half hour on Thursday, and I did come in early off contract hours, but it's mostly because I'm a morning person and my brain is more refreshed, so I would just come early to feel a little better. And I would do that every single day before the school starts, 30 minutes, so about 2.5 hours. And I can tell you for a fact that there are teachers that have way more time than I do for planning throughout their day. So if I can do it, let me tell you, you can also do it. And consider this, that I had about 5 classes. I sold my prep, that's why I have less planning time. And I also taught 2 classes. Spanish 2 and Spanish 3. Before I show you how to prioritize this, you need to have some kind of platform where you organize your tasks. So if that's digital, if that's physical, it's really up to you. I use Google Tasks and Google Keep, and throughout my teacher journey, I would experiment with a whole bunch of them. You just gotta find what works for you. So I'm gonna show you the categories on how to prioritize your tasks. This might look different depending on your school priorities, and if you're like, what is important to my school? Just listen to your principal says. If you see a common theme between every PD, focus on what is important to him. In my school, the most important thing was family contact, so that was always pushed to number 1. And I'll tell you all the categories. Now, number 1, then it was curriculum planning. That was mostly for me. Grading as well, because the school was and students are very invested in their grades. So communication and administrative tasks. So let's go through each one. So family contact I made a priority to message parents right away, because you do not want to be in trouble with a parent or a family, because it can cause more issues and they might even bring in the principal and complain about you. So if you can just resolve the issue with the parent yourself, you don't have to involve anybody else. I used WhatsApp to communicate, and also Google Voice at one point. Next is curriculum planning. I understand that for math and English there's a lot of pressure and a lot of students are behind, but honestly, students will learn regardless of, they will learn better if you allow them to focus on a few things rather than a lot of things at a time. And it's almost easier for you as well. So in my opinion, just choose 1 to 3 standards a week, if it's even possible. Because if you try to push more content, different type of standards and skills, kids are not gonna learn. As a Spanish teacher, I wish I could teach them all the areas of grammar, reading, spelling. I wish I could do all of those things, but what was most important was, in my case, was reading, so fluency, and writing. And yes, I could have focused on speaking, but you know, you can only do so much within the time frame that you have. Also, I made my prep time sacred, and I let others know that I didn't want to have meetings during my planning time. And for the most part, admin respected that, and other teachers also did. Another tip that I have is just put headphones on and just hyper focus on the planning time. Another thing I did is I put a timer. I allotted 30 minutes for Spanish 2. I allotted another 30 minutes for Spanish 3. And anything that I didn't finish, I would just catch up in the morning. So this is where the get rid of perfectionism ties into play, because you just have to focus on what is important and do the best that you can. And I understand that if you're a first year teacher, this might be impossible because you don't have a lot of references. And I could reference about certain activities that I did last year or a few months ago or whatever, and I could just include that in. I already know how to do it. I don't have to type out the instructions because I already know what to do. If my idea or plan takes more than 30 minutes, I just discard the idea, because if it's going to take me way too much time, it's not worth it. Like, yes, it's probably is the best and exciting and engaging, but you also have to think about yourself. And that's one thing that as teachers we don't talk about, is we're recognized for all the work that we do outside of contract hours, but the one who actually suffers is you. You suffer your mental and your physical health. Why are you going to take this fabulous idea and do it out of your contract hours? Like, it's so normalized that it's ridiculous. Because if you ask any other employee in another industry, would you do XYZ if you weren't being paid? Probably not. Like, it would sound ridiculous. So why would you do it as a teacher? You're going to do it for the recognition? Go for it. But if you're not going to do it because you're not getting paid, then don't do it. Like, teaching is a job. It's not a lifestyle. It's not like, it's a freaking job. The next one is grading, and it's very tied into curriculum planning. And my biggest suggestion is to grade 1 assessment a week if you can. And in that assessment, you can have 1 to 3 standards, and don't make tests that are like 20 questions long, because that means that you're gonna have to grade all of those 20 questions. But before you assign anything, look at, am I grading this? And how long will it take me to grade? And is it worth grading? And how many standards does it cover? A few suggestions here is to save you some time: peer grading, if you have that trust with students; self-grading, so this is where students grade themselves, they self-assess; or Or if you have this option, you never know, ask your admin if there's a possibility to have a student aide. Sometimes seniors have a little bit more time on their hands and they might have like a free period. Ask if you can get a senior to grade your work. Next one is communication, and I hope my former employer is not watching this, because this is what I used to do, and it's kind of controversial, but this is what I would do to save some time. Most schools have a communication platform and you communicate to colleagues and your admin through this platform. The things that I would do is I wouldn't ask questions if I already knew if I could find the answer somewhere else. So I would always try to find the answer, and if it took me more than 5 minutes, then I would ask the question. So colleagues would message me and I wouldn't respond back. It would take me about 48 hours to respond back, because most of the time none of those messages were urgent. Yeah, unless the principal or anybody from admin would, if they messaged me, then I would look. For other colleagues, I could usually, this is a perk of being in a smaller school, is that I could see them in the hallway, or I could see them in the bathroom, or I could see them in the lounge, in the lunchroom, and I could just respond to them then. And that way I'm not spending 3 minutes trying to think of what to say and also how to say it and whether or not that actually answers the question. So because I don't want to just respond hastily when I'm like talking to a student, or when I'm in the hallway, or when I'm greeting, so if I see them, I just talk to them then. Last one is administrative tasks. So this is kind of like things that would be assigned during PD, during professional development, or just random things. I would never do them ahead of time. I'm sorry, but I just wouldn't. And they can survive. And I know they used to do this thing where they would recognize people if they did it ahead of time, and I would just, good for them, and I'm like, I have a lot of things to do. My main priority is teaching. I don't have to be doing all these silly administrative tasks that you're delegating to your teachers. I will usually do them on the day of or the day before. Let me know if this video was helpful in any way. I hope that you're able to not take your work computer home and just actually enjoy your time off every single day like a normal working Americans. And just don't forget to like and subscribe. Hasta luego. Bye.